your thoughts on the fact that after 41 days, the president has now, I guess, stopped fooling with us on this?
Well, you know, the president is like Geraldo Rivera promising that he was going to open Al Capone's vault, and of course there was nothing inside. And he's just acting like a reality show president. He can't stop. He continues to demean the presidency, but even as he's doing it, he's creating situations where it leads to the perception that he could be trying to intimidate a witness. He could be trying to threaten someone like Jim Comey in a way that dissuades there to be a complete investigation of the president's conduct.
Senator, first I'll defend my old colleague, Geraldo Rivera. He was always very nice to me, so I'll defend him on that. But let me turn to the president's behavior. To me, it is stunning. It is absolutely stunning that he is doing this because he had so many opportunities. First of all, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. Shouldn't have done it in the first place. And what was the purpose of it? I mean, you know, I can't even come up with some sort of hypothetical why he would have done it in the first place. And instead, he has done this, dragged this on for 41 days, and has taken up so much attention. The House intel, Senate intel, the judiciary on both sides of the and for what purpose? I mean, can you give me any good explanation?
Well, I think it's probably the same purpose that he had when he was trying to persuade Jim Comey to just let the General Flynn investigation go. I think it was the same intent that he had when he was saying to Dan Coats and saying to Admiral Rogers, is there any way you can make public statements saying that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government? I think it fits into the totality of the pattern where on the one hand he says there is no Russian scandal. There's really nothing going on. Nothing has to be investigated. The whole thing is a joke, while simultaneously behind the scenes working to try to derail this investigation with a real suspicion, I think, that the American people have that where there is smoke, there could be fire.
Well, you know, I let the other things sort of unwind, like wanting to want Coats and Rogers to get it out there that they have no evidence of collusion. Look, if someone's falsely accusing me, if these two say that there's no collusion evidence that they know of between the Trump campaign and Russia, I would want that one out too. So I'll give him a pass on that one, and I'll wait for the evidence on that one. But this one is quite final. I mean, the president tweeted this, and he made everyone. I mean, frankly, I don't think people really thought there were tapes, but maybe there was. I mean, with no good motive. There's absolutely no good motive for saying this, for tweeting this, except to try to intimidate James Comey. And then he had many opportunities to fix it, and he doesn't. And now today, when all the attention is on health care, it's almost like he slips it in to sort of get out of trouble. But you know, this is not just bad tweeting. This runs the risk of intimidation of a witness.
It does run to intimidation of witness, which is why Robert Mueller has to investigate the entirety of this tapes incident to make a determination as to whether or not it was an attempt to intimidate a witness and that it was part of a total pattern of behavior by the president.
How can you see it as anything else? Give me a hypothetical where this is not an intimidation of a witness. That's my problem. I'm trying to think, like, you know, trying to look the shoe on the other foot. You know, how could this possibly be good? What is the innocent explanation for this one? You know, give me, I mean, I know, I realize you're in the other party, but give me something to think that this isn't, you know, a horrible thing that he did.
I don't think there is any other explanation other than he's a bully and he doesn't want this Russia investigation to continue. But at the same time, just the way he conducts himself, he's like, he only is matched by Wile E. Coyote in terms of self-inflicted wounds, and he just keeps acting this way. And I think the American public can see what's going on, and that's why Robert Mueller is the key, so that the American people find out what happened and his determination as to whether or not the president was trying to intimidate a witness, whether or not he was trying to intimidate Comey into not investigating. And the same thing is true with Dan Coats, with Admiral Rogers, and probably with other people who are going to come to light as well.
You used the term self-inflicted. I'm not feeling particularly worried about what he's doing to himself tonight, but what I am worried about is that the rest of the world is watching, and the credibility of the person who occupies the Oval Office is very important. And if it looks like he's gaming things, intimidating witnesses, he looks like he is certainly not gaining a lot of respect in the world, and that's an inflicted wound on the American people at this time.
Well, I agree with you, Greta. We have this president in a remedial constitutional law course. He doesn't respect the Congress. He doesn't respect the judiciary. He doesn't respect his own office in terms of what the expectation is, not only by the American people, but by every other country in the world. And this tape incident is just another example of him dragging out in a slow reveal the fact that after 41 days, he now says there were no tapes in the first place. So it's just disrespectful of the office. And by the way, the fact that he's doing this today is once again another red herring to try to distract people from what's in this health care bill.
Oh, see, I don't agree with you on that. I think he knew he was in trouble with this, and while all our attention is on this, he tried to slide this one in. Oh, I don't. I think he was trying to hide the fact that he'd been deceitful on this tape business.
Well, I could argue it that way, but I could also say that he does understand that the polling on the health care bill is very low, and that the only way that they can be successful in getting this health care bill passed is if no one finds out that in the Trump care bill, the top 400 wealthiest people in America get a $33 billion tax break that comes out of help for addiction treatment and for maternity care and for grandma and grandpa with Alzheimer's to be able to be in a Medicaid-supported nursing home bed. He doesn't want people to be able to get the details of the tax breaks for the wealthy and the harm that's done to the working poor.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.